Hello, I'm write-in presidential candidate Chance White from the great state of Idaho. I'm here to tell you that I'm running for the presidency. I don't bring to the table any special qualifications other than I meet the basics. I'm at least 35 years of age. I'm a US-born citizen, and I've been living in this country at least 14 years prior to the general election year. I'm not a CEO of some business corporation. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not a graduate of Harvard University. I'm not a senator. I'm not a governor. I'm not even a council member. In fact, politics is not normally my forte. I have no desire to be a politician. I'm just a common man with common wants and common needs. And like most men, I'd like to live in peace. If I were elected to be your president, I would not want to bring our nation to war, not if I could help it. But should the need arise, rest assured that the mission our soldiers would have would be clear and basic: to defeat our enemy, to have victory, in such a way that that nation should never rise up again to be a future enemy for generations to come. So why am I running if I'm not a politician? It's because I love this nation. I love it so much that I'm willing to put myself out there on the chopping block for all those to analyze my life in the past. And like anybody else, I certainly have the skeletons in the closet that I'd rather not be viewed by anybody. I'd rather be fishing than running for office. But here I am. I'm here because I have a great fear, a great concern for the nation that I love. And if you're like me, you've seen events take place recently that give you pause for concern. We seem to be losing our identity, who we are and what we are all about. What does America stand for? How many of us living in this nation today have a concept of what it is to be an American? For those of us who know, we certainly can see that we're losing that identity that's so precious to us and the freedoms that come along with that identity. In the past, men and women have put on the uniform to defend our nation. Men and women rose to the occasion back in the Revolutionary War to free us from the hands of a tyrant 3,000 miles away. And today, we face a different type of tyranny right here on our own homeland. And this is what gives me the desire to run for office, to place myself under a microscope for anybody to look. I believe that the seat of presidency should be held by someone of great integrity, of honesty, high moral values. They're so important to keeping a republic. I don't declare those issues or those talents to be mine personally. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but unlike our current government, I've learned from my mistakes. And I believe I'm a better man for it. So here I am, putting myself on the table, running for US presidency. It's a David versus Goliath story. It's like spitting in the wind. I have no chance of winning unless the voice of Americans rise up and demand that my name be recognized as a write-in candidate in all 50 states. Currently, I'm recognized here in the state of Idaho. But there are at least 8 states in our nation that do not allow write-ins. This is one of the many issues in a long list that I would like to eradicate. But it can only be done if the people of this nation act as a whole. They call their mayors, they call their governors, they call up their senators and demand that the name of Chance White be held as a legitimate candidate in their state. Otherwise, this will never take place, me being president. But still, Perhaps there's someone out there that hears a message that needs to be heard. And I would be totally amiss if I were to neglect this opportunity to run for this sacred office. Unlike so many presidents in the past, I do not plan on running this country as a business. Americans shouldn't be treated that way. Every individual has a sense of dignity that should be respected by everyone. Politicians have a nature. They kiss the babies and they shake the hands and they tell lies. And every election year we come up with the attitude of, who do we vote for? Who is the lesser of two evils? Today I offer you an opportunity of a different choice. You can vote for me, Chance White, independent. I have no connections to special interest groups. I have no desires to listen to lobbyists. I will work hand in hand with Congress to pass laws that will benefit Americans and not suppress them. My love for this nation, my desire to set things right, and there are so many things wrong for those of you who have been paying attention. Too many federal laws, too many federal offices. These things need to be downsized. State legislation, state government should be given to the states, more power to the states and less to federal government. But the powers that the federal government do have should be strong enough to ensure the health and safety of its citizens, powerful enough to defeat any enemy that opposes us. And yet, not a government that becomes a tyrant. Not a government that invades our privacy or takes away our rights like the Bill of Rights. Our current administration has already passed the National Defense Authorization Act, a violation of Bill of Rights for any American citizen who happens to fall under the suspicion of our current government in terms of being declared a terrorist. Perhaps you're not aware of this, but it was passed. December 31st, the president signed it. It is on the books now, in conjunction with the Patriots Act that's already been. This is just one thing that's been happening while America sleeps. We're individuals. We go about our individual way. We have our own destinies to fulfill. And in the back of our minds, we say our nation will arise to the occasion should a challenge present itself. And we will endure and we will win. But I tell you the truth, America is no longer the way it was 5 decades ago. Many things have happened since then. Slowly, like the soil on a beach, being eroded away through time. We are losing our ground as to who we are and what our country stands for. So caught up in our own individual pursuits, we have come to be blinded. Blinded by those who are making decisions for the rest of the nation. So here I am, running for president. And the first thing that I would like to speak about in a series that is to follow in different parts is the military. When you vote for someone, you should know what they stand for, not just what they want you to hear. And so this is what this video is about and those that follow. My love for the military is beyond question. I have served 13 years of active duty in the service myself, both in the Navy and the Army. I'm a Vietnam veteran, and that is a combat veteran. I am also a Gulf War era veteran as well. I have been a radioman, a hospital corpsman in the Navy, and I've been a combat engineer and a medical specialist in the Army. I love my nation and I love those who wear the uniform because they place their hearts and their minds and their souls on the battlefield every day. They're ready to stand on the wall for this nation. They're ready to spill their blood for the concept of freedom, to keep their families here safe from harm, to secure this nation from its enemies. And today, I'm here to tell you that I am ashamed of our current government and how it treats its soldiers. It's not to say that they don't do good things. Certainly, there are the veterans hospitals, there are support groups that exist to help soldiers after they leave the military to deal with their physical and mental, emotional issues. It's true. But I offer you a different solution. You see, veterans shouldn't be flushed down the system. Once a war is over, Congress typically downsizes and puts the soldier aside. It's like saying, thank you for playing war, but we're done with you now. We can't afford to keep you in our fold. Good luck out there in the civilian sector. Men and women who have lost arms and legs, discarded. I tell you, this is not the way to be. We should not honor our troops this way. Instead, I offer an alternative. Imagine soldiers on the wall. And the wall that I speak of is established both on the north and southern borders of our nation. These men and women are standing that wall. For example, those in Afghanistan or Iraq, instead of being discharged, they man the walls and they protect our borders there. And those who have lost arms and legs are given retraining. Certainly with prosthetics, it's able to be conceivable to anyone that a soldier could still type, could learn to become an analyst, a gatherer of intelligence, clerical duties, administrative. Some can actually still shoot, fire a weapon, and defend our country. In other words, they can be productive soldiers, standing watch, making sure we are safe in our freedoms, instead of being discharged. Men and women placing their lives day after day. This is but one thing that I would ensure, if I were to be your president, would take place. I would also ensure that any future conflicts that we might have would be well defined, their mission clear, no doubts, and not hindered by rules of engagement placed by the United Nations. Not taking orders from another country. I don't believe that we should be restricted in any way when we engage in combat. The idea is to win. The idea is to decimate the enemy so it will never rise up again. We should not be a country of nation building. We should not be placing our military advisors in other countries and teaching them how to fight. We should not be engaged in helping a nation whose government hates us. Case in point, we have embassies in Pakistan. We have military aid. We have money being poured into that country on an annual basis. A country highly populated by Muslims who hate us. Why are we doing this? The same thing with Afghanistan. The same thing with Iraq. We should not have embassies in nations that are Islamic, for inherently these nations have conflicts either with each other or with us. We shouldn't be giving any support to Egypt after their riots and their declaration, fighting for independence, democracy, what seems to be a good idea, outwardly. And yet now we find the Muslim Brotherhood has become in power, both in Tunisia and Egypt. They even held Americans in Cairo that were part of the NGOs, the non-governmental offices that were trying to promote democracy. They would not allow them to leave. They held them for ransom, basically. They judged them in their courts even when they were not present, and they fined them. And yet now, our government wishes still to do diplomatic relations. It doesn't make any sense. It's an insanity that's been going on for some time now. As president, I would end this. And I assure you that the men and women in uniform would be treated with much more respect. And I would value their lives much more than, obviously, our government leaders do today. They are not pieces on a chessboard to be moved indiscriminately. Defending our interests should not include personal interests of companies who have businesses in foreign countries that are under attack. And I believe it's a conflict of interest for any government leader in Congress or in the presidency to have stock in companies that would become a conflict of interest when decisions are made. Should we go to war or should we not? I have no such stock holdings. I have such that my interests lie only in the welfare of my nation, the people, and the soldiers that defend it. I can tell you from my heart, I would never leave a soldier behind. If there was any chance to do a prisoner exchange, it would be done. And I wouldn't tell you that Guantanamo Bay would be closed when I became president and then not close it. So here I am, running for president, giving myself to you, the people. Only you can make this happen. Only you can raise your voice. Only you can make your vote count. Your vote doesn't count this day as long as the Electoral College is in existence. If it did, McCain would be our president today. That's the popular vote. The Obama administration won by the Electoral College, and even now, the Electoral College implies that Obama will be reelected once again. But is it the popular vote? Is it the intention of the American people to let business go on as usual? Perhaps some of you feel that your vote doesn't count, that it's a waste of time, that no one hears it and no one cares, that business as usual will continue. Here I am. Here's your opportunity. Vote me in, and I will change this. I will end this insanity that seems to be destroying the nation I love. And if you love it too, the words that I speak will not fall on deaf ears. You can make a difference. There is hope. There is a chance. And I'm sitting before you, offering myself to serve you, the people, in an honest way. The rest is up to you. As far as the military is concerned, they would be a high priority for me. I would not abandon them. I would not needlessly put their lives in danger. They have served so well, so honorably throughout the past years, from the Revolutionary War to the present. They should not be discarded. They should not be abused. And their blood should not be spilling on foreign soil and needless pursuits by those who have been making decisions for the rest of us for the last few decades. If you don't agree with me, then don't vote for me. But if you do, and you find yourself saying, I'm in danger of losing my vote, why would I waste it on a third party? I'm here to tell you that if the people rise up and make their voice heard, and if what I say reaches their hearts and their minds, it will make a difference. I will set things right. I will reduce the number of federal offices. Homeland Security is not doing its job. Case in point, when a president of the United States sues one of our states, in this case specifically Arizona, for protecting its own borders, to keep the citizens safe, and comes under the flack of hate speech, racial discrimination, instead of supporting that nation, instead of coming to the aid of that nation, specifically Arizona, it gets sued. That alone should tell you that our country is in grave danger. Disunity is being promoted by the current administration at every turn. The progressives would have you believe we're headed in the right direction, including what it's doing with the military, downsizing it. We have global hotspots. We have a resurgent Russia. We have a rising China. We have a despotic Iran. We even have a crisis that's building up in Cuba as I speak that's reminiscent of the Kennedy era. Did you know that? The South China Seas is a potential hotspot. And we are in the process of downsizing our troops when we should be retaining our troops. We should be closing bases that we're not using. We should be redefining the mission of our troops. But first and most importantly, we should be protecting our borders. Homeland Security is not doing its job. Drug cartels have free reign along the borders. People are being kidnapped, murdered, enslaved in human slavery. Atrocities are not limited to countries like Syria right now. We have atrocities right here in our own country. We have issues that should be addressed, but go unnoticed by our nation's leaders. The military is only one facet of these issues. But we should never, under any circumstances, shortchange the men and women in uniform. Never discard them. Never flush them down the system and say good luck in the civilian sector. If there was a soldier on the wall and his time had been completed and the time that he was doing now was beyond that, in other words, he's at a point where, do I re-up? Do I stay in? Or do I go home and seek employment elsewhere? If he's on the wall, why not allow him to fill out resumes and seek employment with business corporations in different states? And should he get a bite, if he should get a reply that says, yes, we want to hire you, he takes that paperwork to his commanding officer, it gets approved, and he musters out, and now he has a job. But it's on his own accord, his own doing, his own timing. Should he want to stay in? He should be allowed. Should he want to muster out after he's served his appropriate amount of time? I believe when a soldier does this on his own accord, his mindset, his emotional set, his being is much better. When a soldier feels like he's more in control of his life instead of being out of control, you'll see there are less suicides, less issues with post-traumatic stress. I love my nation and I love the men and women who serve in uniform. Let us not betray them. Let us not discard them. Let us hold them in the high esteem that they deserve. For if they were not standing in those uniforms on foreign soil across the globe, trying to defend against the human atrocities that are taking place, fighting against tyranny, we, the people here in this country, would not be able to experience those things that we hold so dear to us, our freedoms. I'm Chance White, and I'm running for president. If you vote for me, one of the few promises that I would make and keep is that our soldiers would always be put first in terms of what conflicts we enter, the rules of engagement that they would take place if we should be in a conflict, and the support that they would have from their leaders, the backing from the people of our country, to let them know that we hold them dearly in our hearts and our minds, that we always remember that those men and women wearing that uniform, they're sons and daughters, not only of their mother and father at home, but sons and daughters of America. We should always remember the brotherhood of those who wear the uniform, who so selfishly serve this country. They deserve much more than what they get. And they certainly deserve the respect of those who lead them, of those who make the decisions that place them in harm's way in foreign lands. Make no mistake, if I am your president, I will ensure you that any conflict that we engage in will be as such how should I put this? The value of that conflict will be paramount to the freedoms, to the national security, the national interests of our country, and the people that live in this country. Not about special interests, not about political gain, not about diplomatic relations. If we're engaged in a conflict, rest assured, we will win it. And we will decimate the enemy to a point they shall never attack us again. The value of the American soldier, his blood, is far more valuable than some foreign soil that after the conflict is over, we shall leave. I don't believe in military advisors training a country that one day down the road might become our enemy. The way we trained the Guatemalans to be fighting the drug cartels. We trained them. And then they turned around and they became escorts for the drug cartels. Case in point. You would think that our government would learn from such actions. No. Once again, we see it time and time again. Military advisors training people in other countries how to fight. The stupidity of it is mind-boggling. But that's business as usual, isn't it? And you, the people, have the power of vote. We can stop this insanity. We can stop this business as usual and place a common man with common sense in office, who truly represents the people, who does not feel disconnected to reality. Despite what goes on behind closed doors, I don't know everything that goes on in D.C., I'll be totally honest. Anyone that would tell you otherwise is a fool or a liar. I do not wish to lie to the American people. I do not wish to make false promises that I cannot keep. But here I am, a common man, common wants and common needs, running for President of the United States. An impossibility? Well, it could be. Then again, if you're listening and you raise your voices, it could be a reality. Thank you.